As we continue with your breaking news headlines, China is reaching out this morning to other nations as the U.S. layers on more tariffs in what appears to be an attempt to form a united front to compel Washington to retreat. AP reports this morning that days into the effort, it's meeting only partial success, with many countries unwilling to ally with the main target of President Donald Trump's trade war. Facing the cratering of global markets, Trump on Wednesday backed off his tariffs on most nations for 90 days, saying that countries were lining up to negotiate more favorable conditions. Well, this morning, China has refused to seek talks, saying it would, quote, fight to the end in a tariff war, prompting President Trump to further jack up the tax rate on Chinese imports to now 125%. Well, China has retaliated back to the U.S. with tariffs on U.S. goods now at 84%. Those have taken effect today. A lot to dissect and discuss this morning, so we want to bring into the conversation Samir Kapadia. He leads Vogel Group's trade practice. Samir, always a pleasure having you join us on the show. Good morning to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Certainly a lot to talk about.
Definitely. A lot of Americans this morning feeling a whiplash, for lack of better words, with the back and forth that's going on with this trade war. Catch us up. There are a lot of numbers. As we know, there's a halt with certain tariffs and an increase on other ends. Catch us up. What are the latest numbers?
So, currently you're looking at a system where China has imposed an 84% tariff on the importation of goods from the United States. And we export around $145 billion worth of goods into that country. Vice versa, as the United States, we import anywhere between $400 to $500 billion worth of goods from China every year. And so you see this dramatic gap, or this trade inequity, where we're just buying a lot more things from them than they are from us. And so the president's objective here in creating this 125% tariff on Chinese imports is to curb that number, is to say we don't need to solely rely upon China for a variety of these household goods and materials and chemicals and all the various minerals that we need to accomplish what we can in an economy. So I think what we're seeing here is a lot of the same. There seems to be a lot of fear factor in the markets around this being a dramatic move by the president, but it's quite rational. In fact, we as the United States have been doing this for a very long time through other things like Section 301 tariffs, Section 232 tariffs, anti-dumping countervailing duties. So it's a lot of the same. I just think the president's now doing it with more volume and veracity in a way to protect American jobs.
Samir, a lot to discuss as it relates to the goods and services between the U.S. and China, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I want to dissect and understand the very latest from President Donald Trump. You've seen the headlines as he has authorized that 90-day pause on some tariffs. What does that mean for global trade?
Well, it shows that the president is demonstrating a little bit of caution towards immediately punishing a lot of countries where, frankly, we have some very good legacy relationships, whether that be with South Korea, Japan, India. Even if you look in our own borders with Canada and Mexico, we've had some difficult times, but all in all, we value these partnerships just as we do with blocs like Europe. I think what the president is doing here is he's saying, look, there's a lot to rectify. There's a lot that we can accomplish together. Let's wait 90 days before I institute these reciprocal tariffs so that we can negotiate and find some common ground. And I think that common ground is going to be a coin that has two sides. The first side is going to be foreign direct investment. The United States wants to see significant foreign direct investment from all of these trade partners in a way that can spur domestic manufacturing jobs here at home. Secondly, he's going to want to see that they lower their tariff barriers. So this means things like their own tariffs and their own non-tariff barriers that provide us market access. U.S. companies want to participate in these markets, but sometimes because of the way that you form entities or the way that they restrict capital outflows, you can't always freely operate in these countries. So what he's saying is, let's look at that coin together and let's find ways that you're investing in the United States in ways that you're allowing us to participate in your economy. So once again, super rational. And that 90-day period, he's only giving to countries that he believes have not retaliated. China has very overtly retaliated in a kind of tit for tat, which frankly is not productive and doesn't at all constitute a building towards an equity and a level playing field. He's found that because of these announcements, that maybe 60 to 70 countries are showing that goodwill to the United States and saying, we will come to the table, we want to work with you, and we realize that an American partnership is important. Unfortunately, you're not seeing that with China.
Samir, thank you so much for that detailed breakdown. And as you discussed the tariffs and the retaliation from China, it's the perfect segue to this graph that I want to share with you and the viewers this morning. This just coming in from the Associated Press. As we know, President Donald Trump raising tariffs on China to now 125%. And then we are also learning today, and it actually goes into effect today, that China is imposing the 84% tariffs on U.S. American goods. Well, if you take a look at your screen, these are the top 10 U.S. exports to China. We have soybeans, aircraft and parts, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, industrial machines, crude oil, liquid natural gas, plastic materials, cars, new and used, and then medicinal equipment. What does this mean? Many people don't realize, Samir, the everyday goods and services that go between the U.S. and China.
Yeah, it's incredibly unfortunate because a lot of these exports, involve economies in the United States that are critical, like Texas, California, Louisiana. These are big hubs for agriculture and for energy and a variety of industries that we support as critical. So if now China is saying we're going to charge an 84% tariff on the export of things like oil seeds and grains, and keep in mind grains are things like wheat and corn. These are very important states, not just politically but economically. Now they're saying we don't want those at a price that's going to be convenient for us. And I think that's going to limit the ability for states like Texas, California, and Louisiana, and some of these industries to participate and to sell. So this is a net loser for the United States. We don't like this. It's not productive. And I think that the president's going to come out pretty strong in trying to rectify it through counterbalancing it with what we have now, 125% tariff. And frankly, if China keeps this up, I think those tariffs on Chinese imports might very well go up to 200% if we see this attitude continue to play out.
Yeah, and perfect segue right now, sharing with you all the top 10 U.S. imports from China. Again, coming from the Associated Press, we have mobile phones, computers, accessories, electric and industrial equipment, toys, games and sporting goods, clothing and textiles, car parts, household appliances, telecommunications equipment, furniture, household goods, cookware, cutlery, tools. A lot of Americans concerned this morning, Samir, if the prices of their goods and services that are imported from China will now go up.
Well, it's too early to tell whether we'll be paying $400 for Christmas lights this holiday season, but I will say that there is going to be an effort right now for the president to encourage the domestic base to maybe look outside of China for some of these goods where maybe you haven't looked before. I mean, if you look at countries like India, for instance, we saw just not even a day ago, Apple decided to double down on their investment in India. They've invested in some product lines there, making iPhones. Now they're realizing that maybe partnering with a large democratic country is a better way to do business. And so I think the U.S. has to look outside of China. We can't, as a country, import $400–500 billion worth of goods from one country. And worst part is that China is aware of this. And what they've been doing is circumventing these tariffs by investing in places like Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and elsewhere. And so I think American consumers and manufacturers have to be wary that even if you're looking at a China plus one strategy for sourcing, that country that you're operating in very well might be a hotbed for Chinese investment and Chinese manufacturing, where all that money goes back to Beijing anyway. And frankly, that's the reason why you have these things called reciprocal tariffs, because they counter some of the trade circumvention. And so we don't know what immediate impact this is going to have on your consumer goods in the near term, but the hope is that American companies can diversify outside of China, so we're not truly reliant upon one country. And so, like with India, I think that's slowly going to manifest.
Samir Kapadia, always a pleasure to have you join us here on Live Now from Fox. Thank you so much for your expertise and perspective on all things tariff and trade wars. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you.